Dr. Mark Changizi here through Science Moment. Today I'm going to talk about being a centrist. Now, I think there are certain kinds of centrists who, really they're mealy-mouthed. They just don't have a position. And I've certainly found folks like that throughout my life. They really just don't have any principles, and they just sort of fish around in an unprincipled way. But that's very often not the case. And often there are folks who are centrists, and they're in the middle of two sort of opposing poles. Both poles are very often manias that are excited about being the opposite of the other, and they're usually driven by irrationalities or cognitive biases that have taken over the communities in these kinds of blockchain-like social narrative ways that we've gone over. So let me just cover a few of these. And in each of these cases, these 6 cases that I'll mention, I'm a centrist in some sense. But there's nothing mealy-mouthed about my position. My position is the principled one, not making the mistake that irrational cognitive bias or whatever it might be that leads one to be over there, or a different kind of bias that leads one to be over there. They're both irrational. Here's the principled situation. It happens to be in some sense in the center. It may not really be in the center in some two-dimensional space, like libertarianism might be sort of above, whereas authoritarianism is below, etc., in these kinds of spaces. But in regards to the conversation, because people are often bipolar, it's just one side or the other pole, I'm often deemed to be in the center for principled reasons. So, for example, for COVID, it's the lockdowners and the maskers, and it was screaming mask up. And then the other side, the other extreme side, is it's depopulation and pandemic. Well, as I've covered repeatedly in hundreds of videos, they're both irrational. They're both wrong. The principled stance is in the middle. In the case of 10/7 in Israel, there's one side that says, Israel is doing genocide, which is obviously absolutely ridiculous and stupid. But then there's the other side, sometimes, and I don't mean left and right, I mean the other side who are very pro-Israel, and a few of them I've seen them. There's like, well, all Palestinians are basically Hamas. That's their opinion. Which is ridiculous. Gazans, in particular, are among the greatest victims of all of this. They're the victims of Hamas, or the victims of Iran's mullahs, and so forth. It's being in the middle is the principled position, the one that's not making an error. The trans community. You've got one whole community that's like, I'm a girl now, I can be a woman, I can change my sex arbitrarily, all of this is a cultural construct, blah, 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 which is nuts, which is crazy. But then there's the other side who says, all of this trans stuff, which I don't like, is because gays were allowed to be, we started to be tolerant of homosexuality. No, it's not because of tolerance of homosexuality that this happened. This is not like you do A and then it led to something like B. These are different cultural evolutionary processes that happen over time. Just things move this way. One didn't cause the other. Again, being in the middle. Climate change. There's the climate change, folks. Every single thing that you hear about in the weather, every change, every negative change that's ever occurred is due to climate change for the last 40 years. Every nature show spends the last 10 minutes of the 40 minutes on it. And then you've got the other side, which is, oh my God, there's chemtrails, and they're trying to control, they're trying to do this to depopulate or to take over, the world, or various sorts of things. Open borders, the left is like, we don't need to have borders, blah, blah, let's bring them in. And a lot of them truly believe this. This is not just for boosting their numbers at the polls. They really believe this kind of thing. But then the other side is like, well, no, all these illegals are rapists. Most of these illegals, the huge majority of them are seeking a better life. But you just can't let lots of great people who eventually will have great families all in too quickly. You just can't possibly manage that. It's just economically not viable. The mealy-mouthed positions aren't in the middle in this case. I mean, there are potentially other positions in the middle that are unstable, mealy-mouthed ones, and they have to move. They have to, they're in unstable spots. They're unprincipled. But these are the principled positions. Between an abortion, there's like, abortion, you can abort when you're 8.5 months. Abortion should. There's just the woman's right to choose, and pretending that there's never eventually another life there, which is ridiculous. And then there's the other side was like, as soon as the mom and the dad's reproductive cells meet, boom, instantly the most complicated thing in the universe, a person, a human life, is instantaneously created at that moment and has all the benefits and rights of an individual, of a person, which is clearly also absurd. There could be nothing more different than a zygote is to what a person is. It's the most complicated thing in the universe. Nothing is created instantaneously. Everything is created through a construction process. The point of these is not to get into these 6 different issues. The point here is to give you many cases where the principled position is in between. The centrist position, which doesn't mean it's exactly in the middle, but a position that happens to be between the loudmouth sides, the opposing poles that you hear about, is the principled position. It is not the mealy-mouthed one at all. And that was your science moment.